Good morning, everybody. My name is Zeb Wellborn. I am the president of the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce. You are joining us for our Chino Valley Leaders Webinar on the coronavirus. Essentially, we're trying to get leaders in a bunch of different areas across the Chino Valley to share updates about how the coronavirus is impacting their organizations so that they can share that with you and how it impacts our Chino Valley businesses and our residents. So with that, I'm kind of going to run through our agenda for today. At 8:30, we have our U.S. Congresswoman Norma Torres. At 8:40, we have the chairman of the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors, Curt Hagman. At 8:50, we have State Senator Ling Chang's representative, Carolina Garcia. At 9 o'clock, we have Chino City Councilmember Paul Rodriguez. At 9:10, we have Chino Valley Unified School District Board member, Christina Gagnier. And at 9:20, we have the Outreach and Marketing Manager for CalSavors, Jonathan Herrera. So those are who we have lined up for today. I'm going to give you some updates about the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce and how we've been, what we've been up to lately. Yesterday, we sent out a survey. The survey was designed to educate businesses about, or to get feedback from businesses about how they can prepare for when businesses reopen. So we sent that out yesterday. Another big project we're working on is our Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce pitch competition. So the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce pitch competition is designed to promote entrepreneurship in the Chino Valley. So we have students from Chino Valley Unified School District. They submitted applications to share their entrepreneurial idea. And we're going to do a live pitch event, which is like a Shark Tank type thing. That's going to happen on May 14th. So we have the finalists. We have the judges confirmed. Right now, we're looking for businesses who are interested in sponsoring or being supporters of entrepreneurs in the Valley. So those are the things we're looking to do. I'll share more about that at the end, but now we do have our panelists here, so I'm going to introduce them and we can get started. So first up, we have our U.S. Congresswoman Norma Torres. Norma, are you there?
Yes. Hi, good morning. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good morning. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you.
Good, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Listen, I just wanted to, listen in to, what, how you're preparing to open up your businesses. Once again, I know it's a pretty challenging times. In Congress, we were focused on helping to assist businesses and keeping their employees on board. And I think, now as we're looking at the next package, we're more focused on local government and state governments trying to get them some financial assistance that they possibly need. But I think it's a good opportunity right now to start thinking about the types of investments that all of you will be needing in order to open up your small business. There's going to have to be some investment on your part to ensure that as your customers come back and as your not just your customers but as your employees return back to work, that they do it in a way that is safe and that you are still maintaining that safety measure that will be required, I think, from any business, from small to large, moving forward for at least the next 6 to 8 months. So with that, once again, thank you for inviting me. I know Sol participates in these early meetings bi-weekly, and I'm really glad to get that feedback from her.
Perfect. Yes, and we are very grateful to have you on today. And we did a town hall meeting last week. So it is the same thing. The topic of conversation we're talking about is how do we open back up, and how do we open safely? I also want to remind everybody that is here in our attendees that this is a great opportunity to ask questions. So feel free. There's always opportunities to ask questions. Like we always say, is they may not know the answers, but at the very least, we can have those questions and then try to get those answers for you. So this is a perfect opportunity to ask questions if you have any. Congresswoman, we have one question that came in.
Sure.
How about funding for the post office? There was a question that is there any updates on that? Are you aware of anything when it comes to the post office?
Absolutely. Well, we're looking to ensure that the post office has all the resources that they need to continue to provide mail into our communities. We know that they're doing more than just mail, delivering packages and the type. And I think it's a very good use of resources for them, especially during this period of time. This pandemic has not only been super hard on small business, but it's been critically hard hitting on the post office. As you know, when you go to your mailbox every single day, the mail has pretty much stopped. There's not a lot of what we would consider junk mail coming in. So, they're the ones that don't have this funding. We're working. We need a bipartisan bill in order to get a signature on it. So we're hoping that the Senate and the Senate Majority Leader will agree to some agreement to help, at least for the short haul, the post office.
Okay. And then we've had a lot of, is there any updates just from our business perspective? We've had a lot of our businesses that have had trouble with the PPP loans, or at least getting feedback on whether or not they're receiving those loans. There's been some other questions about landlord issues. Can I give updates from your perspective?
Yeah, from the business perspective, I think it might be a good idea to bring in the SBA and to sort of get an update from them, because they're dealing directly with financial institutions and helping the small business community file for those loan and grant applications. To my knowledge, the feedback that we're getting back from local businesses is that they're finally are able to get some of that money that they've applied for. The first bill, as you know, the money was depleted almost immediately. So we move forward with the second bill. That funding is almost depleted. So if you haven't put in your application, I suggest you do it as soon as possible. We have a newsletter, by the way, if you go to my website, torres.house.gov, where we put out daily information Monday through Friday. On weekends, only if it's absolutely critical and important information that you need to have immediately. If not, we wait for it. Last week, at a conference call like this, I found out very last minute, and none of my colleagues even knew about this, that the Treasury was going to allow for SBA, for small financial institutions, to put in their loan applications between, I think it was 4 p.m. and midnight. So immediately we put out that information, and I hope many of our financial institutions took advantage of that. But again, I think we almost have to be Johnny on the spot. The disadvantage that we have here in the district that I represent is there's so many very, very small businesses that do not have the types of support from a large financial institution that a bigger organization would. That's why my office has been so closely trying to work with SBA and trying to work with the local banking financial institutions to help you through all of those applications. But let me know if there's anything that I can do. I'm happy to help. We've heard, from a lot of small organizations that their loans are finally coming through, which hopefully will be turned into grants should they keep all of their employees.
Yeah. And then you kind of mentioned that the next round is kind of looking towards helping more of the cities and those local agencies.
Yes.
Is there, but you also mentioned that the funds are almost depleted for the small business. Do you know if there's going to be plans for just including
we're continuing to work through that, and just the way we were able to put aside a specific dollar amount for small financial community banks and credit unions. We're looking at a way that we can do that for businesses, under so many employees, that have so many employees and under so much capital. So we'll be a lot more focused on the little guy, versus opening it up the way we did in the first bill and try to correct it again in the second bill.
Okay, great. And then we had one last question from one of our businesses as well. He says he got his PPP loan, so he's excited about that, but he wants to make sure that he does what he's supposed to do to cover that loan forgiveness portion of it. So he knows that 75% of the payroll requirement, that 75% of it is supposed to go to payroll. but he's a little bit confused about the requirements regarding full-time equivalent headcounts. I'm not quite sure how to ask that question, but do you know how to answer it?
Yeah, I think what that is full-time equivalent is on February 15th, which was like the cutout period to file for these types of loans and grants. If you had 4 employees at the end of this period, this coronavirus period, you should have the equivalent of those 4 employees.
Okay. All right. Well, Congresswoman, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time to share those updates with us. We really appreciate it.
Reach out to my office if you have any additional questions. We're happy to connect you with other resources.
Yeah, we will. And you guys have been great in terms of getting out information, and your team is working very closely with us. So thank you.
Feel free to put your logo on it and keep sharing it.
Right,
okay.
Thank you. All right. Our next panelist for today is the chairman of the San Bernardino County Board of Supervisors, Curt Hagman. Curt.
Good morning, Zeb. How are you?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Very busy right now, but hopefully going busy in the right direction for all of us at this point. I'll give you the basic highlights and kind of get into stuff that I'm sure everyone's more interested in, yesterday's announcement and such. But we're up to about 2,200 COVID ID cases. We're coming up to 100 fatalities, which is very unfortunate for our county. But we're testing quite a bit more. We're over 22,000 in testing, which is a good thing. Our supplies, the supply chains and organizations finally caught up with the size of our county, and we're testing multiple locations almost daily, at least Monday through Friday right now. And so we have all that information on our website, where to get tests, where to sign up. And one of the questions I've been getting lately is, when can the general public with no healthcare issues and no symptoms, and when can we start getting some of those out? And that will be very soon. We are expanding every day the pool of people that can set an appointment, including frontline workers, healthcare providers, public safety. So we're working on trying to get maybe a section of time that the general public can come in if you want to get tested yourself. You think you had it in the past, but we're also adding into the mix the antibody tests. So we've purchased quite a few of those, and we're adding that each day as well. So we have a lot more testing things. And why that's important to us, because those are one of the requirements we needed to the state to start opening our economy. So we met our testing numbers. We're continuing to do that. Excuse me. And we are, our results are pretty good. We'll get a presentation at the board meeting today that we are flattened. We still get new cases, but, and I never liked the number of COVID positive, because that doesn't tell you where we are today. It doesn't tell you how many people have been come back to normal, that are cured, or not cured, but have ridden out the disease and feel better. But we're working on those statistics. But the numbers of hospitalizations, the number of new cases, all those things are flat and slightly decreasing in some areas. But that's because everyone's doing their part right now. The physical distance, wearing the mask, and the washing the hands, all the things we've been preaching for the last 6-7 weeks has been working. And we need to continue to do that as we start opening things in the county. So yesterday, we heard from the governor. We've been working on a plan to open up San Bernardino County, not really given a lot of direction of how to do it or when to do it by the state. And remember that whatever the more restricting order is what we as a populace has to live by. So if the county is more restricted than the state, we're living by the county rules. If it's the state's more restricted than the county, we're living by the county rules. Currently, the state's is the one we're having to live within. But he did give indications of this Friday opening up low risk, as he defines low risk, other businesses and operations. Not a lot of detail in there at all. He listed 4 or 5 of the low risk on one side and 4 or 5 of things he's not going to open on Friday. But he also gave a pathway for the counties or local governments to self-declare that we're ready to go from phase 2 to phase 3. The bottom line to all of us right now is things are going to change very rapidly, and we have to be ready, and the county is in that position to be ready. We've been working with the local business industries and sector groups, coming up with a playbook. We have that playbook. We're finalizing the details right now on all this. But over the next few days, we'll have that to go out and get final review from all our members to say, hey, are these things doable? These are very pragmatic things that we've been talking about the last few weeks, things you already see in the Curt grocery stores and Home Depot about the barriers, wearing masks when you go in the store, hand sanitizers, those type of things. So that's our kind of playbook matrix as we're going to unveil. Our numbers look real good. We're building up our tracing, which is one of the requirements the governor's given us too. So when people do get identified with COVID-19, that we go back and talk to them and find out who they may have contact with, and hopefully find out those people to go get tested to make sure we're not continuing to spread as we go forward. A lot of details are not there yet as far as what the state's given us and what we could do on our own, but we're going to make the case. I'm hoping by Friday, when we open up phase 2, that we're ready to go into phase 3. And here's our playbook. We still don't know how long it's going to take them to review or approve this and all these different kind of things. But there's a lot of small details to do between now and then. We announced Friday, last Friday, that we're doing a COVID compliance campaign for business. What does that mean? We're going to put one of those little placards in your window, if you like, that says you met all the state and county requirements to be a safe place for your patrons to come visit. When it's the barriers, the exits on the floor, the hand sanitizer, whatever that playbook ends up being, is you've met those criteria. It's kind of like the A rating you see in restaurants. That's going to be for all businesses that we're working on with our city's partners. And that's going to include watching videos. If you're the manager of the business or the owner of the business, you're going to watch a series of videos to make sure that you know the proper way to wear your PPE, you know, the proper things that we're looking for your type of industry to be safe. Not that it eliminates any kind of risk for us going into that store or restaurant or whatever the case may be, but it will give some guidelines that are the best practices we have as today to keep us as prepared as possible. Now, with that also is we're putting money behind it. The board should be voting and giving direction today to put at least $30 million behind this campaign, and it's going to be for small businesses. We're recommending 100 employees or less that could qualify for this. I haven't done the math yet, Zeb, so we're getting those numbers today of what that ends up being to each business. But we're trying to help the small business get started as quick as they can in the most safe manner we can for those businesses. So if you're, I'll just take a regular retail store. Maybe it's the little plastic shields between the customer and the checkout person. They can put the money in. It may be the X's on the ground that we see in Ralph's. And it'd be maybe a hand sanitizer to encourage people to sanitize their hands before they come in, because they're the ones touching all the product that the next person's going to touch afterward. It may be as simple as that. We may have a check for $1,500 for that store or whatever that amount ends up being to get open. We'll put the placard in the window and we'll move forward. A lot of the stuff should be online by the time we open. So a store manager go in and click in, apply for the COVID compliant campaign. Certify that they went through the videos of education of what their expected standards are, and then certify out. And then we are working on a delivery system of that placard to put in the window. Again, more of those details will be happening by Friday this week, and more what businesses would be considered from the state's perspective, what we can work with at this point on phase 2 and later phase 2 and phase 3. So it's an ongoing moving target. One of the things we realized earlier that may be a problem, and I'm getting this from a lot of my friends who have businesses in the community, that, okay, I can't find the stuff I need. I can't get N95 mask if I'm a dentist, or I can't get the proper hand sanitizer things. Every time I put one out, someone steals it and runs away with it. How am I going to do these things? So the county's been, obviously purchasing a lot of PPE and a lot of these supplies for its own staff and for the public safety throughout the county. And so we have the ability to do some of this bulk buying at a cheaper rate. And we also have the ability to have access to things that me as a general population can't buy. I can't buy Lysol wipes from Amazon right now, but the county can, for example. So we're also setting up a resource store, so to speak, and we're not going to make any money off it, but what we're paying for supplies, we're going to allow a system for the businesses to come out and say, hey, I would like to buy some of those supplies from you at your rate, whatever that rate is. So that'll be clearly out there. Again, it may take a few more shipments of things to come in before we have everything, but we're instituting, for example, because we have large county staff in the buildings were doing temperature checks. And so we had to buy a lot of thermal thermometers to zap the people's foreheads to make sure that they don't have a fever when they come to work. So we have a healthcare protocol that we set up in our county to allow to make sure that we have safe from our colleagues from carrying the flu. So we had to buy lots of thermometers. You can't go to CVS and get one of those things right now. They're just out of stock, but we have those. So those are type of ideas we're putting together. We'll get a full presentation at today's board meeting, which means that they go pretty soon because that's not too far away. That's the direction we're giving to staff to make sure that when we say you can open, not only do you have the right idea how to open safely for our residents, but also how to, if we require you to put some kind of supplies in there, like the automatic hand sanitizer, you walk in and you wave your hand underneath, it comes out in your hand, that you have the ability to get those. This is going to be very unfair to say you can open, but you can't find those anywhere in the marketplace right now. So we'll have our own little sideline store where to pick it up. And again, these hopefully are discounted rates because we're buying in bulk and a lot of these things. We're working on the letter to the governor by Friday. We'll have that out as well to make sure we're ready for the phase 3. We'll probably be changing our health order dramatically. We had a rough draft on Friday. We decided to hold till yesterday to see, because the governor gave indications. We were going to put it out yesterday, but it changed again from his speech. So every time we get ready to put new health orders out, it seems like the rules and the areas are changing. So we just want to make sure we're not completely confusing everybody by sending a new one out a day. But we should see new sectors that we were already on our list from Friday coming out this week, even before next Friday. And I can't even tell you some of the examples of that right now, but we were thinking about some of our parks opening up even further, like our camping sites for RVs, for example. We had a lot of questions on dog grooming because you have everything else open about one of those stores, but except the dog grooming. There are certain protocols for that, but we would like to open that. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts, and I would encourage all the businesses who have interested, please watch our website for those updates because they may be daily. At this point, we'll try to report out to you as quickly as can. And please feel free to reach out to my district office. Everybody knows who's over there. We'll make sure they're informed as close as they can. And we could track down some of those questions you have too, because there's going to be a lot of questions, I know, as this evolves back out. So we're very excited to start seeing some release of our businesses community. We want to get the economy going, but we got to do it in the right way because it's very clear by the governor too, is if our numbers go up, he's going to shut us back down. So those protections we've been doing and basically paying for the last 7-8 weeks of staying at home and all this, things of awareness campaign and wearing the mask and doing things right has got us to the point where we can start opening it up. But if we fail to continue those things, we'll be shut right back down. And I think that'll be terrible. And if Norma's still on, I bet she'll tell you that this is a once in a 100 generation idea to print out trillions of dollars to help us. It's not going to happen again. If it comes back in October, December, Congress aren't going to be able to help us out. So we got to take care of ourselves going forward and making sure we're doing the right things, that this does not come up and really devastate our community even more. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Zeb, for questions.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, we did have one that came in and you kind of alluded to it, but I'll just ask it specifically so you can answer it. What provisions will be in place to track COVID-19 in the future as we move into phase 2 and 3 to the best of your knowledge?
I'm sorry,
what provisions are going to be in place to track COVID-19 in the future?
Well, as far as the county health position, our goal is to offer testing multiple places so people who have symptoms can be tested. People who want to be tested can be tested. And from that information we gather, we will have a tracing team that go out and start talking to those. So if I come down with it, they're going to come talk to me and ask me a survey. Who have I seen in the last 3 or 4 days? Have they seen any symptoms? Then they go talk to those people and say, hey, Curt, got the thing. And, these are the symptoms to look out for. You may want to quarantine yourself for a little bit to make sure you don't have it. We have a testing site. We can schedule an appointment for you. Those are the tracing that's A, required by the state, and B, to help our public health kind of surround the disease and prevent the spread from going further and further. So that's a very critical part of the plan going forward. We have to maintain this. This is not going away. It's still spreading. It's still going from person to person right now at a slower rate than it was a few weeks ago, which is because we're taking those protective measures as a population here. But we need to continue to do that as we have more interaction with other people going forward.
Okay, great. And then you kind of mentioned that there's a couple of things like the beginning plans opening up businesses. You kind of talked about a couple of those. You mentioned that it was unclear, but you said that there was 5 or 6 that are pretty clear. Do you know what those ones are?
Oh, the governor mentioned like clothing stores, bookstores, and he talked about doing the pickup, which we see a lot of businesses doing already. You call and order online, you pick up. So he's alluding to different models of businesses, I think more so than the actual business industries himself. He talked about open up lodging again. He talked about different things like that. His speech is different than his order, and the order is not very specific at this point. He alluded to more of those standards coming out tomorrow on Wednesday. And so he also alluded that the counties can kind of take over if we show that we're ready to do so, and he set criteria out for that. So that is my goal. Instead of waiting for the governor to do things day by day and how, we have a good plan together. We can, Chino Valley and the desert and the mountains are all different areas of the county, and we need specific plans for those regions of the county that are going to be different than it will be in San Francisco. It's going to be different than it's going to be in San Diego. And that, I think the governor does see that is a local control, not so much control issue, but we're very much more pragmatic to do it on a local level based on the circumstances of our residents and businesses throughout the regions of our county. And so that's what I'm shooting for right now is we'll watch what he says the next couple of days and try to work within the framework he sets as that goes forward. But we want to be able to basically convince him and convince the state that we're able to self-certify our county to go forward with our plan, and we have a good plan to put together. So that's my goal, is by Fridays to get the plan out to him with the guidance we get from our board today. And by then we'll have a lot more details from the governor's office as well, but so we can self-certify, so we can take over that plan locally, the one we've been working on for several weeks now.
Okay, perfect. And then if this is a reminder to our folks, if you have questions, include them in the chat. I just noticed that there was a couple of questions on our actual Q&A section, but you're free to ask them there too. But I kind of missed those. So one of them was just talking about the comparison maybe between Orange County. You know, we've seen those protests in Newport and Huntington Beach and things like that. Is there any kind of difference between how you guys are handling this, or how San Bernardino County is handling this versus how Orange County is handling this?
Well, yeah, I have friends in all the neighboring counties, my colleagues and supervisors from LA, Orange, Riverside. So we do talk offline quite a bit and say, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? And you saw what happened. And I think Orange County, again, going back to the regional differences, Orange County was putting a lot of people in a very small area. The beaches are very unique, okay? And so, and because they opened them up without working within the state guidelines on that regards, you saw the state come down hard and put orders that are more restrictive. And even though they're challenging it, even though they're trying to file legal suits against it, the reality is the most restrictive order is one that we have to live by, unfortunately. Now, we've stretched that as far as we think we can in the last few weeks, opened up public spaces, and we did so in communication-wise with the state of California. So we are communicating with them daily. We do want to get to the point where we can be in charge of our own region, and we think we can do so by showing that we have a good plan together. So I think that's the best way we do that, is working together. We want the same goal. We do not want this COVID-19 to keep spreading at a rapid rate. There's people that are dying. This is, I saw the news yesterday, this is more deaths in the country than Vietnam and Korea War put together. Let's put that in perspective. These are big events, once in a 100-year generation type of event. So we got to do things very smartly and correctly. We all want to get the stores open. We all want to get back outside and start living our lives again. But we have to keep that in the back of the mind, that we have to do this in a way that this disease and this doesn't take over everything, and it puts us away even more. So I think we got a good plan. We work to get closely with health officials in our business community, that these things that we're planning are very practical and pragmatic. Again, it's not going to stop. It's not going to keep everything sealed up, but it'll really help us out to slow the spread.
Okay, perfect. And then this is one last question. If you didn't get your questions answered today, you know, Curt is always on our calls, Curt or one of his representatives, so you can come in next week too. When it comes to youth sports, businesses and gatherings like this, what are some of the solutions when it comes to youth sports?
I see that unfortunately being later in phase 3, because I don't know how, and we'll see this probably with the pro sports first, how they start integrating that contact sports or get in close proximity when people are breathing very hard, sweating. This disease is spread by droplets. So you can imagine any kind of physical activity, that's going to be the most extreme time when the droplets get passed on from person to person in those type of settings. I'm very hopeful that science is working parallel with us opening up our business sector, that new treatments are coming for those who do get sick, and as well as the working of vaccination. That's the Hail Mary pass we're hoping for, is get this vaccination out as quickly as we can. But there may be modified sports we could do. There's the difference of let's see, tennis than it would be from football, for example, where the tennis players are far apart. You're hitting, you know, a ball back and forth versus contact sports that are next door to each other. So I think we'll rely with some of the health experts to see how that works. We haven't seen that even on the plans yet for those type of sports or group activities like concerts. And we have a lot of good venues here in Chino Valley. A lot of the hospitality ones that are really hurting because they don't have the concerts and the shows and those type of events at the Total Business Arena. You know, those type of things we have to see where we could do. So there may be a way in those type of settings where the concert can come out, because obviously you can spread out the talent, but you know, how do you put the guests that come watch in a safe manner? Is it every other seat? Is it every other row? Do we have to wear masks when we go in? I think that's probably the approach we're going to take. What is the pragmatic approach to get some of these venues open? They may not be as large as they used to be. There may be temperature checks coming in. We're installing at Arrowhead, and we'll see them at the airport later on. Temperature checks are widely used throughout the world, but we don't use them much here in the United States. But they're going to be coming online. So there are thermal cameras that will see 60 people walking through the door at the same time that could track each person's temperature. And if someone has a fever, it can point that person out. So we could take them aside and ask them further questions and make sure they're not a carrier of the disease. So there's different things we're looking at, but no plans yet, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Well, Curt, thank you very much for taking the time to come in and answer those questions and give us an update. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for doing this, Ed. Take care.
Hey, thank you. And then from State Senator Ling Chang's office, Carolina Garcia is supposed to be here. I'm not sure if she is yet. Is that you on the phone, Carolina?
Hi, yes, it's me.
All right, perfect. You're up.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here again on behalf of Senator Ling Chang. I just wanted to give you a brief update. We're like Supervisor Hagman said, the governor announced conditions for reopening the state just yesterday, and he discussed plans to gradually move into stage 2. Clear guidance has not yet been given, so we are awaiting to hear about that later this week. But I am glad to hear from the supervisor the ways in which the county is preparing for that reopening. Zeb, I believe I shared with you, but I will reshare. Last week, the senator launched a survey to gather input from our business community in SD 29 on the reopening of the economy. So you can visit senate.ca.gov/Chang to fill this out. We would love to gather input on challenges and ideas to effectively work with you and the government and other legislators on policy solutions to everything that's going on. I also wanted to put in a plug. If you've missed it, the senator has also hosted several telephone town halls to discuss a variety of topics with relation to COVID. Our last one had guest speakers who discussed testing, healthcare, and hospital preparedness. And so we are still waiting to confirm the date for the next telephone town hall, but I'll be sure to send that information to you, Zeb, to share with everyone here. And I just wanted to also remind everyone that our office staff continues to assist folks with EDD casework, providing information on assistance programs, and communicating with agency partners to help our business community move forward. So feel free to email us or give us a call if you need assistance with any of those issues. That's pretty much all that I had to say, Zeb. Thanks for the time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. We have a question for you. So you guys are reconvening next week, it looks like. Is there, or this week, are there provisions in place that you guys are taking to protect each other?
Yes, so we heard this has kind of all been done also, you know, as time goes by and each week information has changed. So we did receive information from the Senate that they would be reconvening next week. I myself do not have all of the details on it, but I do know that safety provisions will be in place. For some of the elderly folks, I think that there are options to do remote voting and things like that, but we're still waiting on details, awaiting the governor's announcement also this week. So definitely the social distancing is probably part of it, the masks. And from what I heard also is that there will be a limited number of staff able to actually enter the Capitol building and things like that. So there will be safety provisions in place.
Okay, great. And then another question comes from, is there any progress in the supplement to Covered California?
You know, I don't have an answer for that, but I'd be happy to look into it and give you information. Zeb or whoever is asking the question can also send us an email or give us a call, and we'd be happy to give an update on that.
Okay, perfect. I think those are the questions. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending that email, and I'll make sure to forward it on. Or what is the phone number, actually?
Yeah, so it's 714. This is our district office. 714-671-9474.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll just give a little update about the survey that you guys have put out. Is exactly what Curt and exactly what our Congresswoman Norma Torres had said, was that we are moving towards reopening the economy. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that people are taking the appropriate precautions to make sure that people aren't getting sick. So that's one of the things that Senator Ling Chang's office has put out a survey on that. And just to let you know, we kind of use that. There's lots of surveys that are going on, so I'm trying to compile them all for our businesses so I can share that data as well. So we kind of used yours as a template. And so we put together a Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce survey, which we sent out yesterday. We are going to be sharing that with your office too. And we want to make sure that we're getting businesses there. So we had a good response on those. But if you haven't done that yet and you're a business that's operating in Chino Valley, make sure you do that survey through our chamber, and if you don't have it, let me know and I will email it to you. But we sent it out via email yesterday, and that's going to help us in terms of making sure you guys are prepared. So like Supervisor Hagman was saying, is that there's a lot of issues that have come out because they've been asking those questions and doing those surveys, and because they have that information in advance, they can make sure that they prepare for it and take care of it. And that's the kind of things that State Senator Ling Chang's office, ourselves, are trying to coordinate so that everybody is able to open as quickly and efficiently and safely as possible. So the more feedback we have from you as business owners that are operating in the Chino Valley, the better off it's going to be. So thank you. Next up, and before I do this, just a reminder to everybody, we have a post about this. I will be sharing this afterwards on YouTube and on Facebook, so you can share those. Really good information here today, so I encourage you, when you get a chance, when you see this post on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel, that you share it and let other people know the good things we're doing. I also want to let you know that we're doing a press release. We're going to be sending out a press release to our community talking about these Chino Valley Leaders webinars and the importance of it. So if you or anybody else has a testimonial or something that you would like to share about how valuable this has been for you and your business or your organization, please send me an email. I'm going to put my email in the chat section at zwellborn@ChinoValleyChamber.com so we can send that out to promote what we are doing with our Chino Valley Leaders webinar. So with that, I'm going to go on to our next panelist, and our next panelist today is Chino City Council Member Paul Rodriguez. So Dr. Rodriguez, I'm hoping I can get you the ability to talk, so hold on one second here. Dr. Rodriguez, are you there? Let me try one more thing. Dr. Rodriguez. Going once, going twice. Okay, I'm going to go on to our next panelist, which is Chino Valley Unified School District Board Member, Christina Gagnier. Christina, let me see if I can get you here. Sorry, she sent me a text about it. I gotta make sure I'm adding the right one. Christina, are you there?
Hi, Deb.
Hey there.
I guess I'm here.
Okay.
How are you?
Cool. Doing great.
Awesome. So I have a couple of updates. I think that a lot of things have been in transition for the school district due to COVID-19 and the move to distance learning. But there's been a variety of topics that have come up frequently, and so I just want to provide clarity to the extent that I can in regards to the school district. First and foremost, we are still having meetings. Our meetings are happening online. If you wish to submit public comments, there's an email address that is board secretary at the domain of the school district, and I can provide Zeb with this so he can share it on the chamber page. But we will be having our regularly agendized board meetings. We have one this Thursday, May 7th, and we also have one on Thursday, May 21st. So if there is anything that you have a public comment on, please feel free to submit it. The board secretary will be reading those comments into the record at the appropriate time on our agendas. In terms of school lunches, I do want to emphasize, since we do have a lot of families in need in our community, that we are still providing school lunches, even though our schools are closed and we transition to distance learning. We have free lunches for any child ages 18 and under. The campuses that these lunches are provided at are Briggs, Magnolia, Ramona, Canyon Hills, Townsend, Cal Arrow, and Woodcrest. And so those will continue to be made available through the end of the school year. I know in the last week, and I thank and appreciate Supervisor Hagman for coming on and talking about all the changes and public health orders. I know there was an announcement last Tuesday, I believe, by Governor Newsom that took a lot of people by surprise about the schools opening early. As a board member, and I comment just in my own role as a board member and as an individual, sometimes these things are taking all the school districts across the state by surprise. So I've gotten a lot of communications from people asking if we have some insider baseball on this from the governor. We don't, and I frankly was very surprised to hear that we weren't going to be able to get haircuts, but the schools were going to open back up in July prospectively. So I just want to be very clear that we're hearing things just like the counties are hearing things and being like, huh, that's interesting from the governor's office. So too are school districts across the state. So the Chino Valley Unified School District has made no decisions, no declarations of any sort regarding, when the school year will be starting. So I just want to make that clear, since I've gotten a lot of emails from parents concerned that, school might start in an in-person fashion in July. There have been no decisions made, and I want to be very clear that, we all appreciate that we are stewards of our most precious resource, which is our kids and our community. We're going to be very careful in our approach of how we reopen things when we do. And that leads into another hot topic, which is graduations. I've received a lot of emails and phone calls from parents and community members in regards to graduations. If you were listening to Supervisor Hagman, you can appreciate that public health orders are moving all over the place. Every week we're getting new updates from the governor. We're having to look at the local Department of Public Health and see what's allowable and what's not. Guidelines have been issued and then retracted back on. So we are very closely following any updates that are released from the local Department of Public Health, through the Superintendent of Public Schools for San Bernardino County, through the Governor's Office. in terms of what can happen for graduation. As of right now, we are having virtual graduation. That doesn't mean that's the only thing that may happen. This is not something that we're out sort of publicly discussing day to day. And I think there might be the impression that the school district is not looking at all the things that are going on and trying to make decisions internally and see what happens and see how public health orders progress. But I just want to be very clear that we're all aware that our students are missing out on a lot of opportunities and memories. Everyone at the school district wants to support our students and celebrate their achievements in high school graduations. But we also don't want to misfire and plan a in-person event and then find out that that's not going to be allowable. I think that planning things and canceling things and planning things and canceling things is not the best way to assure that we're celebrating our students. I've also received a lot of feedback, and I've been following all of the local school districts and their announcements as to what they're doing for graduation. And we're looking at things on a case-by-case basis again, and I think we can all appreciate this. Seems like every other day something new is coming out. It's okay to do this, it's not okay to do that. And we have to be more careful than most because we are dealing with children. And we need to make sure that as stewards of the children and their education in our community that we're being as careful as possible. So those are my announcements. Should I learn anything different, I will most certainly share that. Just want to make sure that we do get out information about those school lunches so that our families are able to access those lunches and those resources. The school district also has senior scholarships available. The applications are on the school district website. And so those will be due by May 11th. So if there is a senior who wants to apply for one of those, I would definitely encourage them to do so. I also just saw the question about safety procedures and when students return to school later this year. All of those things are being contemplated right now. There are no specific ideas that have been put out there. We will be in consultation with all the stakeholders who are involved, but as the situation progresses, I can guarantee that the school districts, the district office will be communicating potential ideas and working with our teachers, staff, and other stakeholders to develop a plan that really takes into account safety. I did hear a question earlier about youth sports, for example. Again, we have to appreciate that this is a stage-by-stage process. And so I'm sure as we go into the summer months and see the progression of this, we'll have a much better idea of what we can and can't do for the 2020-2021 academic year. But as of right now, I think we're all still in a situation, regardless of what elected position we're in or supervisory position we're in, of trying to take the information we're getting from the federal government and the state and apply it in the best way possible to keep everybody safe. And that's it for me.
Okay, great. We had a couple of questions. It looks like a couple of neighboring school districts have done like individual graduations where it sounds like they have the principal that's coming out to honor the students. Is there any talk about that in Chino Valley area?
Well, I will comment on that because, yes, there was a neighboring school district, and it was the Chaffee Unified School District. I believe Fontana has come out with some ideas as well several weeks ago. Guidelines were just released last week from the the county superintendent of schools for San Bernardino. And those guidelines, if you read them and interpret them, and I'm going to put my lawyer hat on here right now because that's what I do when I read guidelines, seem to suggest they were trying to support schools in doing things virtually. And if you were going to do something in person, they seem to suggest that doing something drive-through would probably be preferable given that we don't know the disease patterns as well as we should right now. We don't have the testing that we need. And some of those guidelines seem to suggest that in-person graduations could happen, but they still reiterated the 6 feet rule for social distancing. So if you were to read all of it together, that seems as though that's impossible. That was read by some school districts to interpret that large in-person graduation events could happen if they were socially distanced. That was walked back last Friday. Since then, I think it was the Chaffee Joint Union High School District, which is all high schools, which is very different from our district, announced that they're doing something this weekend whereby students are able to show up at a certain time. And I'm just saying what I've seen and heard is happening. I don't know the logistics. I'm not on a school board for that school district. And apparently students are getting the opportunity to be socially distanced. They have a certain time they show up, they're able to walk across the stage and shake the principal's hand, and then go to an area and take a picture. That is happening this weekend and being recorded for a graduation video that that district is going to produce. Our district has not made any decisions in regards to that. We have not precluded any in-person hybrid ideas. So I do want to be clear, because we get an inordinate amount of emails from people suggesting ideas that happen across the country. We got many emails suggesting when the Air Force did their graduation that we do something like that. I just want people to keep in perspective that first and foremost, what colleges and universities do is a little different from what we do. What the Air Force does is much different from what we do, but that we're looking at all ideas right now. So as we learn new things, as orders change, and I think one of the things that has been a frustration, just to be frank, as a school board member, and again, this is my individual position, not the position of the district, is that the Department of Public Health has not been helpful in providing guidelines in regards to these things, real, actionable, meaningful guidelines. And guidelines are then released and then retracted on, so we really don't know the state of play. So I think Supervisor Hagman did a great job of sort of laying out how the county at his level is trying to take ownership and put things together and have a plan in place. We're looking to see what happens over the next week. Another great example was just yesterday, we learned all these new businesses are going to be able to open back up. We didn't know that last Friday. So we are in constant consultation about whether or not we can do something in person, what that looks like. We're talking to parents, we're talking to the principals. So I do want to be clear that it's not as though the board and the district is sitting on its hands and just sort of letting things pass by. We're trying to use the most up-to-date information to figure out what's the best solution. And again, I don't think districts promising people that we're going to have huge events in the summer is fair. I don't think we're having a huge event with thousands of people for a graduation. I don't think that's happening at the collegiate level. We're not even allowing people to convene again in groups of certain sizes. So I just want to level set that while we are exploring in-person things, we don't want to plan something right now and then have to cancel it. That will be more disheartening. And I think that that's something that you are going to see some school districts run into, is planning these events and then canceling them. And we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that, in a time of so much instability, that we're being very conscientious and coming up with a stable solution that we know can happen.
Perfect. Well, Christina, thank you so much. We did have some more questions for you, but I want to make sure that we try to get to all our panelists and then on time. So I'd appreciate it if you or somebody from the Chino Valley Unified School District would join us next week. So I definitely will extend the invite again. So thank you. Next, we have Jonathan Herrera. Jonathan Herrera is the Outreach and Marketing Manager for CalSavors. Jonathan, are you there?
I am here, Zeb. Thank you very much for letting me join today. Let me start by just assuring, all the business owners on this webinar that, we know that many employers are facing unprecedented challenges right now. And, with everything going on, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to join the webinar. So thank you very much. I'm happy to update you all on how CalSavors is responding to the pandemic. For employers, I think, the most tangible update is the extension of our Wave 1 deadline. So for those of you who are on the call who aren't familiar with it, there is a new mandate that's going to affect in the state of California that's requiring businesses to offer some sort of retirement savings program. The original Wave 1 deadline was for businesses with more than 100 employees. That was originally set for June 30th, but our board voted unanimously just a couple weeks ago to extend that deadline to September 30th. So the Wave 2 and 3 deadlines for businesses with more than 50 employees and businesses with more than 5 employees remain intact, June 30, 2021 for more than 50 and June 30, 2022 for more than 5. But I think it's important to stress that the program remains open and we're committed to supporting employers and employees as they start their retirement savings journey. We hope that many employers will be ready to join this spring according to the original schedule, but we know that unfortunately many will need more time as they contend with urgent needs and prepare for recovery. But as we move forward to recovery, CalSavors will still be here to offer employers our simple way to help your employees save as they return to work. And of course, that's with no employer fees or fiduciary liability for the employer. For savers, I'd just like to note that, obviously we continue to ensure the safe custody and investment of contributions that are made into the program. and committed to timely processing account requests. We're closely monitoring the financial markets and the performance of the CalSavers portfolio. I think that, you know, the one thing that this pandemic does show now more than ever, it shows how vital it is for individuals to have financial resiliency in both the short and the long term. And CalSavers was designed for that purpose. You know, there's many design features of our program that we think, you know, might actually help people in this situation if they've actually started an account with us. Unless a saver has actively chosen otherwise, their first $1,000 of contributions goes into a money market capital preservation fund that helps protect their investment from market volatility. In addition to that, we chose a Roth IRA as the default, which does allow for savers to make to withdraw their contributions without taxes or penalties. So, you know, when we chose that design feature, I think we had imagined an employee coming up with an emergency like their car breaks down or something like that. You know, we never imagined that a global pandemic would be the cause of financial hardship for our savers. But, you know, our savers should know that if they are in an emergency, they can withdraw from their CalSavers account without taxes or penalties on it. So, you know, there's research out there that says that, you know, the average American couldn't afford a $400 emergency expense, but we're proud to say that the average balance in CalSavers accounts right now is just over $400. So if there are employees out there who are experiencing hardship, you know, if they need to make a withdrawal from their CalSavers account, they're welcome to do so. And it could be the difference of, you know, keeping food on the table while they wait for their unemployment check to kick in. I think those are the sort of the most important updates. For anybody who wants more information about the CalSavers program, we are doing twice weekly webinars. We have an events calendar set up on our webpage. I can put the webpage in the chat box. The other thing I should mention briefly also, since, you know, CalSavers is part of the State Treasurer's Office, the State Treasurer has put together an online resource guide for small businesses experiencing hardship from COVID-19. I'll put the website for that into the chat box also in case you want to check it out. I probably won't be able to answer any questions about it because, you know, I'm dedicated to CalSavers, and that's a different part of the Treasurer's Office that's working on that. But again, thank you very much, Zeb, and to the Chamber for letting me join and give you this update on our program. I'm happy to answer questions or turn it over to Zeb.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you so much for giving those updates. No questions currently, so we're going to move on to Stephanie Wade, the representative from Congressman Gil Cisneros' office. Stephanie.
Hi, Zeb.
Hello.
Sorry to jump on late, but I'm glad to be here. Zeb's going to beat me all about the head, neck, and shoulders for my technological failings, but I swear, Zeb, the link wasn't working. In any event, I'll be very brief. Really, the only two updates I wanted to have, though I'm happy to hear in the chat from other people or take questions, but you know, the congressman, like many of you, was very, very frustrated with the first round of payroll protection program loans that the SBA was providing, and I want to say he's now only moderately frustrated. Now, I just wanted to add that, you know, it's working a lot better on the second round. 70% of the loans that have been issued so far are under $50,000. And then, you know, California this time is getting the lion's share of that money. So it's getting more directed where it should be. We're not completely satisfied, and we know the money's probably going to run out shortly. So we want to encourage people to continue to apply if they think the terms are incredibly generous, and as long as you're spending 75% or more of what you borrow on payroll, you can show receipts that 75%. At least 75% of what you borrowed payroll is entirely forgivable. So we want people to go ahead and continue to apply, and we think those funds are going to run out, which I know is bad news. But we also think that there's going to be a third round of PPP funding, and we think again that it'll probably be even better targeted, so that it's really getting to the Main Street businesses we need and we intended to get to. And then I guess the last thing I'd say is probably a general one for a lot of people. If you're still working on trying to get a stimulus check and you haven't been able to get the portal to work, I don't have a lot of support, but I'm working on that, and I'm happy to talk to people. But I encourage people to continue to keep trying it every day. because they're literally they did a large round, and a lot of people I've been working with who couldn't get through the portal all last week. As of Monday of last week, they started getting better and better all week because they did some major fixes to their program. And if somebody really is still not getting through to the portal and they're getting an error message or that standard message saying that, for some reason, their system doesn't work, we are putting together a consolidated list of those cases. I can't guarantee you that it's going to happen very rapidly, that the IRS has been stonewalling us a little bit on that, but at some point we'll just go to the Ways and Means Committee in the House and press for better answers. But we're doing what we can to try and fight to get people stimulus checks, and we know that about a third of the people still qualified and that should be receiving checks haven't received them, but they're coming in the mail every day. So don't lose heart if you're dependent on a stimulus check. That's all I have, Zeb.
Okay, perfect. Stephanie, if you wouldn't mind, I know there's some questions in the chat. And so would you mind just kind of responding to those because we're out of time and I want to make sure that we kind of start and end on time. I also want to thank Dr. Rodriguez. I know that we had some difficulties. I know that he's here and is ready to speak, but we couldn't get him the voice. So I'm going to work with him so that we can have him on next week. So next week you can prepare to hear from Chino City Council Member Dr. Rodriguez. So he has some updates from the City of Chino. And just to give you a really brief updates about the chamber, I've kind of mentioned it throughout this webinar, but I kind of want to bring it up again, is we put out a survey yesterday talking about how we're going to reopen the economy. It's really important that businesses fill that out so that we have some insight into how we can help ease that process and make sure that it's really easy. So when they do give the green light to say we can open up, that we have all the proper systems and protocols in place to make it easier for you as a business to get started. So the more feedback we have from business owners, the better. Number two is we have our Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce pitch competition coming on May 14th. It's going to be virtual. It's going to be students from the Chino Valley Unified School District. Christina Gagnier, who was on one of our panelists, she's really been working hand in hand with me to make this happen. And we have a committee of folks as well. But if you're a business that would like to support entrepreneurship in the Chino Valley, a way to give back to students who are facing a lot of challenges right now in terms of not being able to do the things that they normally do, this is a great opportunity to do so, a great opportunity to give to our students and also promote entrepreneurship in the Chino Valley. And then all of the updates, we're continually giving updates from all of our panelists here through the Chino Valley Chamber of Commerce email list, through our website, and through our social media. So I encourage you to sign up for our email list and go from there. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. We'll be back next week from 8:30 to 9:30. I think we'll for sure have somebody from CVUSD. We'll have Curt Hagman back on again, and we'll definitely have Dr. Rodriguez from the City of Chino. So thank you guys. Appreciate it, and have a great day.